Welcome to the Early Book Show. I'll be your guest for tonight, Kazuo Ishiguro. I myself am an author of a science fiction novel called Never Let Me Go, so I'll be talking about my book as well. We invited three main characters of three books to talk about their experiences, and we're going to ask them some interesting questions. Our first guest is Thomas. Hello Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Our second guest is Sia. Hello. Our last guest is Andrew.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Okay, what I'd like to know at first is what your story is. Tell us about yourself.
I'm Thomas, as you already said, and I woke up in an elevator, a dark elevator, and when it got all the way to the top, like 50 boys were looking down on me, all of the same age as me, like 17, 18. We were all stuck in the glade with a giant maze around us, and we tried. They already tried for a couple of years to escape, but didn't succeed. And after I got in, we kind of tried together. And a day after me, a girl, the first girl in like 2 years, got in there, and then everything changed, and a couple of people blamed me and the girl Teresa for that. And after a lot of things happened, a couple of us actually escaped. So that's what happened.
Okay, sounds fascinating. That brings us to our next guest. Tell us about yourself.
Well, it started when I was selected to do the testing, which allowed me to go to university. I had to do 4 tests. I passed them all, but the 4th one was very intense. But successfully, I made it.
Okay, interesting story. Tell us about yourself, Andrew.
I am the third child of my parents, which was in that time of my world illegal, but I was made because my older brother and my older sister were prodigies, but they missed one thing, to become the savior of the world, because we were being attacked by buggers. So I was allowed, and then the government picked me up and brought me to battle school in space, where I trained hard to become the commander, to fight the buggers, and eventually I succeeded.
That sounds really exciting. Thank you for telling us. That brings us to the questions. The first question is, which part of your life was most emotional?
I've had several moments, but if I had to choose one, well, it was the moment that the government manipulated my older sister Valentine to convince me to continue with my studies, because I was having a hard time. I had no friends, I was very isolated, and I wanted to leave battle school, and I almost gave up, but then, they convinced Valentine to talk to me into it, so I continued.
And did your sister end up alright?
Yeah, my sister was fine. I didn't like that she did that, but I still love her. She's my most important person.
It's very touching.
I can imagine how you feel, because my brother also means everything to me. But my most emotional moment of my story did not involve my brother, but it was when I discovered that my partner in the last test, which was a fighting test, I discovered that he was a killer.
That must be really hard for you to hear.
Yeah, and my most emotional moment was, I think, when we actually just escaped the maze. A couple of adults stood there and explained some things to us, but all of a sudden, Albie, one of the kids who was also in the glade and who actually hated me, was standing there with a knife in his hands, and all of a sudden he threw it at me, and Chuck, actually one of my best friends, he was the youngest one, he jumped in front of me, and the knife hit him in the chest, and he died slowly in my arms. So that was really hard for me.
Well, he didn't die in vain, that's what we can really say.
Yeah.
Did he leave something that you could keep, so that you would think of him?
Yeah, he had like a small carved statue, I think, that he wanted me to bring to his parents if I could ever find them, and say
who he was, and explain what happened to him.
Yeah, I hope you can bring it to them.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about my book now. I wrote a book called Never Let Me Go. The book is about three children at first, called Kath, Ruth, and Tommy. They live in a sort of school called Hailsham, and what they don't know is that their sole purpose in life is to donate their organs to people who have made them, actually. They're cloned from other people. So it's a very emotional book overall. There's nothing really that stands out. I made it so that the ending is very overwhelming for the reader, because that's when all the serious stuff happens. So yeah, that's my book.
So it kind of like goes very quickly at the end.
Yes, that's true. That brings us to our next question. I'd like to know what your biggest regret was in your life.
For me, I think again it has to do with Chuck. I was just so sad that he died for me. I really wished I could have prevented him from jumping in front of me. Yeah, he was really my best friend, and in the beginning actually my only real friend. He was the one that gave me like some kind of tour in the Glade and taught me how to do everything and how to blend in.
It must be hard to lose a friend like that.
Yeah.
For me, it's something completely different. After a couple of years in battle school, I achieved a certain status where I was able to lead my own army. And so I got new students that were younger than me. And one of them was Bean. And I kind of saw Bean as a copy of myself because he was also young. He was quite a prodigy as well. And for some reason, I started acting harshly towards him just because my old commanders also did that to me. I kind of did that automatically, and I kind of regret doing that because he didn't deserve it just because I went through that.
Yeah, sometimes we do things we regret.
Yeah.
True.
So did I, because before I went to the testing, I took my brother's recording device, and it saved my memory, because after the testing they say they delete everyone's memory, but I could save mine.
It's really a shame.
Was he angry at you?
When I never came home, so I didn't know, but I think eventually he was glad that I made it because of the device.
And what about you, Kazuo?
Well, in my book, the main character, Ruth, and her best friend, Kath, often had quarrels. They really fight with each other, like, a lot of the times. So I think that's Kath's biggest regret in her life, because at the end, when Ruth dies, she really regrets fighting with her. So yeah.
So friendship was a very important factor in your book.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, for me it wasn't really that like that, because I was, as I said earlier, I was also quite isolated, and I didn't have any real friends that would stand up for me. I only got that a little bit later in my career, so I can definitely feel, I definitely can't feel what they felt.
So you feel like friendship brings you down or slows you down?
Friendship never really stood in my way, because I can really focus on my task. The only person that can only change my thoughts is Valentine, and she did do that sometimes.
Okay, so you really liked having a friend like that?
Yeah, I would like to have a friend like that.
Okay.
I think friendship is a big theme in all of our stories, except for Andor's one. Because in mine, if my friends didn't have my back, I would have died.
Yes. Okay, I can understand that.
With me, also friendship plays a big part, because one time, so the maze closes every night, so the grievers, the creatures inside, don't come into the glade and like kill everybody. But Mino, one of my better friends, they sometimes run into the maze to find a solution and find an exit. But one time they were way too late, and the maze was going to close, and nobody had ever survived a night in the maze, so everyone was really scared. But when the walls were just about to close, we saw him and another person come around the corner, but he was injured at his legs. But Mino didn't want to give him up, and I just ran in there, although I wasn't supposed to. We had very strict rules in the glade, but I just ran in there, not really thinking why I would do it. But we eventually made it out alive, and we also saved the crippled one. And the half of the people were really angry at me because I broke the rules, but the other half like my better friends, were just happy that we all made it out alive.
It's great to have people supporting you like that.
Yeah.
That'll be it for tonight. Thank you for sharing your interesting stories. I'll definitely keep in mind some ideas for my new books.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Good evening.